Yeah, I think the only tip I got from him uh, early on was just make sure you articulate. He heard something I did. He was like, I couldn't understand you. Make sure you articulate so we can understand what you're saying. so, um, and of course, he was right. He was right. It was funny. I think it was on something. This is a funny story. So like
Puppeteers Podcast presents Cheers to Puppeteers, a special fundraiser to benefit the Direct Relief Fund for puppet artists, helping puppeteers of America impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have 9 very special episodes featuring some of puppetry's brightest stars. You can support this effort by unlocking episodes early, purchasing Cheers to Puppeteers swag, or making a donation to the Direct Relief Fund, all at puppeteers.com/cheers. Let's lend a hand and say cheers to Puppeteers. We now return to your previously scheduled podcast.
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger.
And Cameron Garrity.
And today on the show, we have Eric Jacobson. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cam, Adam. How are you today?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. For anybody who doesn't know, Eric Jacobson is the Muppet performer behind some of the best-known characters from both the Sesame Street and the Muppet Show universes. He's taken on many of Frank Oz's characters, taking over Grover, Bert, Miss Piggy, Fozzie, Animal. He's also recently taken on the role of Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street, and he does some other wonderful characters, Guy Smiley. And we're so excited to talk to him today as we celebrate the Puppeteers of America Relief Fund for our Cheers to Puppeteers series. Eric Jacobson, welcome back. Welcome to Puppeteers.
Thank you.
So, we like to start off the show with just something that you're working on now. Do you have any current projects that you can talk about?
Well, sure. We've just kind of begun in earnest on season 52 of Sesame Street, and it's always confusing to me because we shoot so far in advance. But yeah, season 52, and we've just started going back into the studio. Which is it's great to see everybody. It's been a long time, and it's with all sorts of new protocols, but we're doing it, and we're doing it safely, and I'm glad to say that there will be a season 52 of Sesame Street.
That's wonderful to hear.
That's so
just
great.
Out of curiosity, and just talk about as much of it as you can, or as little as you can. Are most of the procedures you're using, are they mostly social distancing or mostly PPE?
Well, it's a combination of those things. We have a reduced number of people who are allowed on set. We have zones. Certain people stick to their zone over here, and these other people have to stick to their zone. We have testing. It's all very highly organized and planned out. We have people on set who supervise and make sure that everything is being done safely, and everybody's wearing a mask.
That's great.
Yeah. And it's as safe as I think we can be during this time.
No, absolutely. We talked to some of the performers earlier on in the pandemic, and some of them were worried, just wondering when and can you guys ever go back. And I'm glad that enough research has been done and the right procedures have been done to be able to produce the stuff safely for everyone.
Yeah. We're also complementing a lot of what we're doing on the set. We're complementing it with a shoot that we did over the summer, outdoors, and so there's, I don't know if we're going to be doing as much material as we've done in the past, but we're doing as much as we can under the circumstances and trying to do it as safely as possible.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
excellent.
great to hear.
Now, and again, if you're not able to talk about it, we completely understand. But has what has happened in this world, is that beginning to be reflected in the material that you're shooting? I know you guys have done a number of really great specials, with the at-home play dates and things like that. But are we going to be seeing that come into the curriculum for season 52?
I'm not sure how much of it is going to actually creep into the curriculum for the season, but as you've stated, Sesame Workshop has really embraced, all the positive messaging that we can right now to get people to conduct themselves in as safe a manner as possible. We've done numerous town halls with CNN. We've done all sorts of PSAs and other videos to help educate and support families across the United States during this time. So, and it's something I'm really proud to have been a part of. I think it was a great decision on Sesame Workshop's part.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I almost could hold them right up with some of the stuff that Governor Cuomo was doing, just in terms of like talking to people about, telling the truth and, expressing your emotions and just being as honest as possible about the situation. They were so well done, and definitely commend you all.
Absolutely.
On
And
that.
a lot of the Sesame Street curriculum kind of reflects a lot of that, has always reflected that stuff, as well as hygiene and stuff too. So I can't imagine, other than mentioning things specifically, which might not be necessary as much beyond what they've already done. So yeah, I think just more Sesame Street to kids and to families is going to be helpful any way it comes. So
Yeah. And, we don't know how long this is all going to last.
That's true. And I realized as I was as you were answering that question of like, oh yeah, season 52 is not going to be up for another year or so. So
that's good.
hopefully it will not be relevant.
Yeah, let's all hope.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's good.
But I just thought of one other thing that I'm not currently working on, but it just aired, just went up. That is the monster at the end of this story. It was an animated special that we did, and which I think really turned out really nicely.
That's what it's called, The Monster at the End of the Story?
I think so.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And just, that's such a classic book that it was based on. It was
The Monster
cool
at
to
the
see
End
it.
of this book by John
kind of
Stone.
Right. And to see the expanded universe of that
Yeah.
was
Well,
fun.
and that, and it was the first time that Sesame Workshop had ever done something. They've done a lot of animation over the years, but the first time they'd ever done a special, I think. And I feel the animation is just on an order of magnitude greater than anything we've done before. And the music is fantastic. I really love the songs in it, and I think it turned out really nicely. I'm very happy with how it turned out. That's something right now you can watch and hopefully enjoy. As new productions are a rare thing to see these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Adam,
Absolutely.
Fred would love it.
Oh yeah, we'll have a link right up here for people to click on. That's awesome. Well, yeah, I can't wait to check it out.
And it's something I was thinking about, because I know all of the performers were working from home. What was the logistics of just having, I assume, boxes of your characters shipped in to your house? Because the upkeep of them is no small feat. And I could just, especially someone like you or for Matt to have probably a half dozen characters or more. What was that responsibility like?
Well, it continues to be
Oh, sure.
a huge responsibility. I think the hardest part about it is the storage.
Yeah.
um, I've got a whole room that I can't use any longer
Yeah.
because it's full of boxes, both from Sesame Workshop and the Muppets, and it's boxes of puppets, and I've got equipment in there, lighting equipment, and all sorts of stuff.
Oh my God.
And I just drag it out when I need to shoot something, and that there's a lot of setup involved. I have to wear a lot of hats. Again, it's I think every puppeteer can attest, when they start out, they're wearing every hat. They're writing the script, they're the performer, they're their own lighting director and stage manager, and I'm having to shoot everything myself and do all of this. And it's kind of reminiscent of when I first started out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, well, I'll give you. Make sure you write off when you do your taxes the square footage of that room. You can do that.
Oh yeah,
That's
oh,
right.
you better believe it.
Home
Oh
studio.
yeah, another thing I was wondering too, because we were talking about to some of the other performers and whatnot about how I think Matt was talking about how he's directing some stuff through Zoom and whatnot. And actually, it got me thinking: was there through Zoom a puppet wrangler as well, where you held it up and they're like, okay, yeah, looks good, nothing to change? Just because I know sometimes there's little things, even when we do our own puppets and whatnot, sometimes you don't notice that, like maybe an ear is, because maybe the puppet was set down and the ears kind of folded back a little bit, or a little twist in the hair that you don't notice because you're so focused on the performance. Has there been any kind of check like that, or just kind of been depending on the puppeteers to look over their characters before?
Mostly the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, especially for a character like Miss Piggy, who needs constant attention.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny because
she's high maintenance as a puppet as well as a character.
That's right. I remember noticing in the 2011 movie, when she first comes out, and anytime she pretty much moves, her hair goes all over the place.
Yeah.
You cut back. The second you cut back, it's all combed and perfect again. It's like, oh man, this was not a quick shoot, not by any, and not in the way no shoots are ever quick, but not in the way that most people would have expected it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, her hair and makeup team is always standing right to the side and ready to rush in at a moment's notice. But now I'm her hair and makeup, and so if she doesn't look quite as good as she normally does, it's my fault.
That's right. That's great.
Well, hopefully we'll be seeing her back in the real world soon enough. But
yeah,
you mentioned that this kind of, it feels like you're being taken back to square one, in a sense of like your beginnings as a puppeteer. We'd love to go back a little bit and just talk about like how puppetry found its way to you, or how you found yourself to it. Like how was your upbringing as an artist?
Yeah, well, I was mostly, I would say, a visual artist as a kid. I was the kid that everybody at school said, "Oh, he's going to be a drawer one day. He's going to be a professional drawer." But as I got older, my interests expanded and into the performing arts and puppetry. I always loved puppets. I think most kids, there's a gravitational pull toward them with kids. But it was never something that I thought I was going to do as an adult until college. And I because I had so many different interests in the arts, I went into film and TV, where all of those different things collide. And it was while I was in college that I really kind of focused on puppetry.
Did you do theater when you were in high school? at all?
I did theater, musical theater. Um, I continued. I was in orchestra. I uh, kept pursuing art,
Yeah,
painting, and
that's great. What were some of the roles you
just
had?
everything.
What were some of the roles you had in those shows?
Um, there was. I went to this camp, this arts camp in San Antonio, Texas,
Mm.
every year. It's called St. Mary's Hall Summer Arts Program, and the kids there would write a play for the next year's campers to perform, and so I was part of some highly original work. um, there was the Great South Texas Armadillo Race,
Wow.
and that was probably the catchiest title.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, but it was great. It was a great experience because I was with these kids that I wasn't going to school with
Yeah.
all year long. It's fresh faces, fresh slate. Nobody came with any baggage, and we all just accepted each other and could really celebrate each other's talents. And there were a bunch of talented kids who went there, and that was a really special part of my upbringing. And I don't know, it really built a lot of self-confidence and in me as well as countless others. And I still keep in touch with some of the kids that I went to that camp with.
That's amazing.
That's
That's
awesome.
so cool to hear,
Yeah.
especially because at a younger age, having kids do more original shows, because I feel like, especially in high school shows and in a lot of camps like that, they do a lot of well-known shows, and
Yeah.
the kids, I think there's a big level of mimicry that kids do based on performances they've seen in the past. Whereas when you're doing something original, it would embed in these kids in an early age to really make it their own in a way that would be even hard to otherwise, because of having seeing other performances before that.
And because they haven't heard the
It's-
cast album 1,000 times. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it's true. And something I failed to mention before is that I was always very much a mimic. So had I, been doing those types of shows, I would have watched it and then just tried to do that. So it's you're absolutely right. It did force me to really rely on my own interpretations.
Yeah, which is so important as a performer and puppeteer, and especially as a Muppeteer, I imagine, because like you and many other puppeteers do have to take on these other characters, but being able to do that alone isn't enough to work in these types of productions. You really have to be your own performer as well.
No, it's true. I take very seriously my job to deliver a performance that people recognize, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's that character that I grew up loving." That's really important to me, and it's something that I feel like I have the tools to do. So I do my best, but you're right. It's not enough. I have to then rely on myself and my own interpretation of the material, because this character has been seen before thousands of times, maybe in a similar situation, but not this exact precise situation, having to say these words and really live in the moment. So it's vital that all of the Muppet performers have that tool set, as well as being able to do a voice that people recognize.
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. You mentioned how you were a strong mimic even back as a kid. Was that something that you realized that you were good at, or was it something that like people, had to like let you know, like, yeah, not everybody can do that?
Gosh, I don't know. It was it was something I didn't think much of until probably I got older and in high school, and people started laughing at the voices I'd do, and and then yeah, it was like, oh, this is a fun party trick.
Yeah.
This is a way to break the ice at a party. But just like puppetry, I never really saw it as something that you could make a living doing.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, of course.
So then what was that thing that made you realize that puppetry was something that, if at least wasn't something you could make a living at, was something that you could at least do at a semi-professional level? I think you mentioned college was when you kind of rediscovered it.
yeah. I kind of put it to the side after I decapitated Charlie McCarthy's head
Oh no.
in an effort to try and figure out how he worked. And I couldn't figure out how he worked, even opening him up. And then I had a headless Charlie McCarthy. So I was like, I'm putting this to bed. And so it wasn't until years later, when I was at NYU, that I figured it out, and sadly, it came with the day that Jim Henson passed away.
Yeah.
And in that moment that I found out, I learned the news. Something in me it was like a switch being flipped, and I knew that I had to do something to help continue this man's legacy, to do something. I just realized how much he and his colleagues and their work had meant to me growing up. Because, like yourselves, probably I grew up watching Sesame Street, when it was first catching fire, and then as I got older, it seemed that I was always Jim's target audience.
Yeah.
For the Muppet Show. I was old enough to really get a lot of what they were trying to do on that show, and it was my favorite thing to watch. 6, 7, 8 years old, and then the fantasy films and the movies, and I just seemed to be right there along with him, tracking with his target audience. And so it was just a flood of these memories that washed over me in that moment that I heard the news, and I just realized, wow, he was so meaningful to me growing up. I had to do something. I didn't know what exactly, but
Yeah.
I figured it out pretty quick.
I've heard that type of thing with some of the other performers too in other interviews. I think Stephanie DeBruzzo has a similar type of story. But one thing that just got me wondering, because obviously the whole world when that happened was devastated of the loss. But one thing I'm just wondering is, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure there's other people that felt equally compelled to try to get in and help prolong his legacy as well. Is there anything you think that you did to kind of better position yourself to be able to have an opportunity to work with these companies?
Well, you use the word position. I would say location.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
Yes,
I was
that
in New
does help.
York.
it's a good place to
Um,
be.
Yeah, and that definitely um, helped immeasurably to be in the city where um, you know Sesame Street was based, and Jim based his operations for years and years. Um, so I was quickly able to get an internship with the Jim Henson Company, um, working on out of their and I was at NYU, was really well connected university, and and in film and television especially, they can get you an internship just about anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So that was that was ideal. And so I was able to get an internship with Jim Henson Company, and I worked in their dubbing room, where I was in charge of their tape library. So it was basically my job to watch everything Jim and the Muppets had ever done every day I went in. Yeah.
There are
People would
worse
be
ways to spend
requesting.
an internship.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So that's
yeah.
what I did. I all day long I just put in another tape and record it for somebody who wanted, a clip or something. Um, and just watched all this material again or for the first time. There's so many rarities that I'd never seen before, and it was a great education in that way, but also being around the people. Um, they were just really starting to get production up and running again after Jim's passing.
Because this was around
Um,
92, I think,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and they were using uh, the Carriage House studio on 67th Street again, and everybody came in to do spots for Good Morning America, and so I was there, getting to see Frank and Jerry and Dave and Steve do their thing, um, and and Steve it was like his first time getting to really do something substantial with Kermit. It's really amazing to be there, um, and see them all work. Um, in so it was that was a great education. And then there were a whole bunch of new productions that were in the pipeline, and they were needing performers for. It was just, wow, we've got so much going on. Dog Cities, City Kids, Sesame Street was expanding to around the corner, and they needed new performers, so they started hosting these puppeteer workshops. And the first few, I was able to sit in on them and just watch, and eventually I asked somebody if I could actually participate, and and then I got to do those, which was tremendous.
Wow.
Because Kevin Clash and Jane Henson would both run these workshops, and they were looking for new talent. They called them workshops, but they were looking for new talent, and I learned that very quickly, and so I guess I had a little bit of a leg up by getting the chance to observe some of these workshops before participating. But then I'd go home and I'd drill myself and just work so hard to get myself to a point where I thought, oh yeah, this is something I could do.
Yeah, no, and it's it could feel like such a steep climb in the beginning if you've never really done that kind of stuff before, and it's so many new things that you're doing all at once that you're trying to master everything at the same time, and you're just hoping that something starts to stick, so you could start to build up the rest of the skills.
Yeah, it is a slow process. You don't just get it like that, and there's a lot of dedication involved, and hard work, along with some kind of built-in sensibility, I think, which I always felt I had that. I had the felt like, if I can just push myself and work hard enough, it'll happen.
Right.
And I was in New York, which really helped in other ways too, because I knew if I wanted to be a good puppeteer, I couldn't just do that by, walking in the front door of the Muppets and saying, please hire me. So, the theater scene has always been great in New York, and that goes for puppet theater as well. And so I did a lot of work with a lot of companies in New York, a lot of live theater.
You were doing Marionettes with Steve Witterman, right?
Yeah.
At some point? Yeah. That's so
cool. Yeah. I consider Steve a mentor of mine. He was phenomenal in getting me, helping me get the basics down, but that was with Marionettes.
Right. Yes. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
No, but he did some hand puppets. He always loved to have hand puppets in his acts as well. But he worked with the last troupe that Bill Bert had at his Barrow Street Theater, and so I got all this wonderful knowledge, and connection with one of Jim's both contemporaries and inspirations too, and which was great, and I loved doing Marionettes too. The amount of focus that you need to do Marionettes, and specificity is, that those disciplines really carried over when I started doing more and more hand puppets. But it was a tremendous experience working with Stephen, and I love doing Marionettes. I probably love doing Marionettes more so than doing hand puppets live.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason for that you could quantify?
Yeah. It's it has to do with the distance between the performer and the performance, and being able to observe the performance from a distance. It's whereas you don't get quite the same point of view as the audience when performing marionettes, you at least get to see it, and you can make adjustments to your performance from your observations. And with hand puppets, when you do those live, you can't, you don't know what's going on up there. You just have to kind of feel it.
Right.
You can't see your own performance. And that's what I love about doing television puppetry, is that you get to see exactly what the audience sees, and you can make those adjustments and, craft the performance, ideally precisely the way you would want to see it.
Do you ever have an urge to get your hands back on some marionettes again?
Sure. Yeah. I do. I wish I could, I wish I had the time to do that kind of stuff again. I did a lot of downtown theater back in the 90s, working with Stephen at the Puppet Company, but also with the Czech American Marionette Theater with Vít Horžiš, and Jonathan Cross and his Clockworks Theater. Some really, really crazy fun times.
I think Sesame Street should have a little marionette segment in their show now, and you should head it. That's what they should do. A little segment, a little character, and just kind of like their animations,
absolutely.
right? They have their animation segments. How about a little marionette segment? Maybe every other episode, once in a while, once a season. Let's throw it in there.
It'd be great. We don't do it quite as much anymore, but like every now and then there would be a call for a marionette rig, to do some kind of full body thing on the show. And Marty Robinson, he also worked with the Baird Marionettes, and so he and I would usually get tapped to pull those strings.
Yeah.
And so that's always fun. It's a rare and rare thing these days, with the ability to do green screen and kind of tabletop stuff to get those full body effects. But I still love it. I
Even
love
like
seeing
the animatronic ones too, right? Because I know Elmo's got his scooter he rolls out on and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. The technology. That technology is really cool when it works. But it's always it's always with a wing and a prayer.
Yeah, when you're dealing with radio waves, it's like roulette a little bit.
Oh yeah, especially in a studio.
Sure.
Because you get all this interference from other equipment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Definitely.
That's so cool.
But it's really funny when you see Elmo's head just doing this, and nobody can stop it. They got to run in and before any kids.
I was gonna say
crying.
Blue skies, blue skies, blue skies. This is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but as I was doing research for talking to you, and we talked to Matt Vogel not too long ago, and I think it's a interesting little bit of symmetry that he had the opportunity, his sort of big first outing as performing Kermit was with the Muppet live shows that you guys did at the Hollywood Bowl. And in a similar way, you were able to kind of be introduced to the Muppet Show characters in the Very Merry Muppet Christmas movie, where you guys were also kind of recreating the Muppet Theater. And I'd just love to talk about like that experience for you of just, I mean, the daunting responsibility of taking over Frank's characters, but also just like, I can't imagine the amount of pressure, but also elation and like all the different emotions that you're probably feeling all at one time. Can you talk about just where your head was during that shoot?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's funny. When I first started, and it's just dawning on me right now. The first couple of things I did were actually set in the Muppet Show theater. There was a video with Weezer
Oh yeah.
for their
Yeah, I
song
forgot
"Gone
about that.
Fishing." Yeah, that was set in the Muppet Theater, and it was a different set than the one for Very Merry Muppet Christmas. But we shot it just. I feel like it was just like weeks or months before we did the TV movie. And I think that was the first time that, it was definitely the first time that I was on a recreation of that set. And it was the first time that I performed Fozzie
Okay.
for anything was in that video. So like, that's pretty cool to like think that, the first time I officially performed Fozzie was in the Muppet Show theater. That's pretty neat. I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, I guess it was a lot like walking onto the Sesame Street set for the first time, which I'd already experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like being in the Purple Rose of Cairo and walking onto the silver screen that you've been watching your whole life, and it's a magical experience, like going through a portal
Mm-hmm.
and then being in this place that only existed before in your dreams and on TV, but here it is, and it's real, and it's really cool. It's really cool. And so I just um, I just felt lucky and honored and really elated. It was a euphoric experience to be there. And then when we did the Very Merry Muppet Christmas, I mean, yeah, it was the same experience. It was a even more detailed recreation, I felt, of the set. It's really beautiful, and we got to do more on it that felt like the Muppet Show, little scenes, where people are running in from off stage and little interactions, and that was so fun to do, and it just it felt right, with all the characters. It felt right. It's where those characters were born. It's where they have the most purpose, and it's a place that where I've been wanting to go back for the longest time. I remember back in those days, I was like, this is great. Let's keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring back the Muppet Show. And there was talk of doing it at the time. I think NBC was so thrilled with the success of the TV movie that they were contemplating bringing back the Muppet Show back then. The sets were saved for quite some time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was talk about it, but it just,
Holy cow.
Then there were like, companies were bought and sold, and
hopefully
best laid plans.
soon enough. fingers crossed for something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it could still happen one day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's been a waning of enthusiasm to see that show return over the years. I keep hearing it. I keep hearing people say, "What, that thing you did, that was great, but when are you going to bring back the Muppet Show, like the Muppet Show?"
We really thought that Muppets Now was going to be the announcement for it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It or at least because we kept joking. Adam and I made a little prediction video because on Scooter's little desktop there was a vault on that was like this big green lock vault, and we kept joking that he was going to accidentally open that and upload the Muppet Show, the original seasons of the Muppet Show, onto Disney Plus, and we kept joking and hoping that.
And the reason for that, we thought that meant a new Muppet Show was coming, is because like, how can you reboot something that people don't have access to the original? So they're going to release the original, and then they're going to reboot it. So that was kind of the theory.
Yeah. Well, all that could still happen. Who knows?
Hopefully, fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
Make a lot of people happy too.
Me counted. It's I go back, I watch the old shows, and I just it still resonates. It's so funny. It's just so wonderfully absurd, and all the characters, that's, like I said, that's where they were born, and they just all make sense there.
Yeah.
So Muppets Now, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be the Muppet Show. I think everything we do, they think, this is it. This is the new version of the Muppet Show, and it until we do something called the Muppet Show, don't think it's going to be
of course
Muppet Show. It's the ABC show was, that's not what that was meant to be,
right?
And neither was Muppets Now. Muppets Now wasn't even meant to be a show. And it's amazing how I find it amazing how it all pieced together into something that people even mistake as being a reboot of the Muppet Show. Like they see it as a comedy variety, sketch comedy variety show, and all of the segments, they're all informational. They're informationally based. It's all like reality TV, or gosh, what do they call it? They have
like
all
influencer type things, or
it's all based on real stuff. Like it's like when Miss Piggy does her lifestyle segment, all the stuff she talks about, it's actually real. They're all real things. And that was with all the segments, that's what we were aiming to do. We were doing informational kind of reality TV content, which is very different from what we would be doing with the Muppet Show or any any variety show that
Hmm.
that we might be aiming to do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah. It was fun to watch. I got to watch it with my daughter too. She really enjoyed. It was fun to be able to watch something new with her that was Muppets, rather than just introducing her to all the classics, which is fun to
Yeah.
do. Fun to do as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
enjoyed it.
Well, this is the first thing that I really got to watch with my kids that I'd done, um, which was great. You know,
Yeah,
I
that's
couldn't
special.
really do that with the ABC show. Um,
Right.
they were
Yeah,
too young, and and it was a different kind of show.
yeah,
But Muppets Now, um, it it strikes a really great family friendly tone. I feel,
yeah.
and all the feedback I'm getting from my friends who have families, they're enjoying it together, and so that's great to hear. It's
Yeah.
great to hear them.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
just to go back a little bit, when you were talking about how the first time walking on that kind of Muppet set and the first time playing those characters, did you feel? So we talked a little bit about how you felt doing that, but was there an added pressure knowing that you were doing characters for someone who you're taking over these characters of Frank, who's still here? He's just kind of moved on to do more directing and other things. Was there more pressure just knowing that? That even would potentially watch this or something, and in that fact, almost with everything you do, even like this, an interview or something. I'm pretty sure Frank Oz is not going to watch this, but the fact that he could,
I could have done
is
that interview on Puppeteers better.
He could do anything I do
no.
better.
I mean, I'm sure he doesn't have that type of attitude toward it, but you can't help your own subconscious of thinking like, what if, right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Gosh, you know, um, I always say that Frank has a parking spot reserved,
Yeah,
and anytime he wants to come back,
yeah,
he is welcome to. He's the originator of these characters, and you know, it's kind of the same way. I think if somehow Jim, you know, he just walked in one day, it's like who's going to say no? I'm
yeah,
sorry, but somebody else is doing
It's
this now.
mine now.
Yeah. um, so, uh, he originated these characters, and so that's the way I feel.
yeah.
That said, yeah, I I am doing them now,
Mhm.
and I have to feel, a certain, um, a certain responsibility. Um, you know, I don't know what to call it. It's not an ownership,
Of course.
but it's this kind of this very special relationship, this
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
exclusive relationship with these characters for the time being, where you know I I get to it's it's my decision, my choices, and you know I have to deal with the material that I'm given, of course, um, and I have to try and make it come alive
Did
as
you
best I
ever
can.
talk with Frank about these characters?
Not a lot, not a
Yeah.
lot.
'Cause
We
that's
we
I,
have we have
yeah.
talked,
Yeah.
um, but I think you know the nature of the relationship is that you know he's not he wasn't there, and that's why I was brought in.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
like, if he was there,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
he wouldn't be spending uh, that precious time, you know, coaching me, telling me how I should do
Mhm.
the characters.
Mhm.
He would just do it.
Yeah.
Um, but we've talked about the characters, and like I said, I've had the chance to watch
Yeah.
them in action, both with the Muppet characters as well as on
Yeah.
Sesame Street. Um, and it was an invaluable experience working alongside him.
Yeah,
Just getting to watch his process in action. But it's I have I I have to say it's something, when you take your work seriously, you don't you have blinders on, and you can't let all that other stuff affect you, like the weight of the responsibility, or, oh gosh, I wonder what he thinks or she thinks or they
Sure.
think. You have to just trust yourself and be committed to delivering the best performance you can. So
Yeah.
No,
No, of
that's
course. Yeah,
so true.
I didn't necessarily imagine that he was like formally coaching you or anything, but I guess I could imagine in a world where he gave you like maybe just some things to think about, and or just like even a little affirmation like, "Yep, looking good, buddy. Keep doing what you're doing," type of thing. Which I imagine. Yeah, again, even if there wasn't since there wasn't that formal training, that some sort of acknowledgement would be at bare
no,
minimum reassuring to
yeah,
yourself.
no,
Yeah,
he has done
yeah,
that. I mean, he's thanked me for the job that I've done, um, and there we we have very civil words with one another. um, it's no, but no, he's not. He may play Yoda in the movies, but I'm not his Luke Skywalker,
sure, of
Mhm.
course, yeah. And I'm sure this
right?
isn't something he thinks about that often too. He's worked on so many
Right.
projects and
No,
stuff too, so many huge things. Like you said, Star Wars alone, Star Wars, Little Shop, all these other movies he's directed.
yeah,
It is. I'm sure it was a very, it was a huge part of his life and kind of what got him started. But sometimes people do kind of just move on, and that's kind of what this story sounds like for him to some extent.
yeah. He still loves the Muppets. He
Yeah.
he he loves the he loves all of us. Um, he wishes us all the best, me included. And yeah, I think the only tip I got from him uh, early on was just make sure you articulate. He
Yeah.
heard something I did. He was like, I couldn't understand you. Make sure you articulate so we can understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
um, and of course he was right. He was right.
Yeah.
It was funny. I think it was on something. This is a funny story. So like, uh, I had just started doing Piggy, and um, I'd already started doing some of Frank's characters on Sesame Street. But I just started doing Piggy, and there was this. Um, I think there was a We Are Family video that uh, Niles Rogers uh,
Yeah, it's like it was like almost
had done.
every children's
Yeah,
character all on singing "We Are Family."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And um, and I had already pre-recorded Piggy for that, and and I don't know when we were expected to shoot. But I'd already pre-recorded her, and I was at Sesame Street, and we were doing some Bert and Ernie bits, and the day was going along, but I don't think that was even it. Um, I think there was a last second call uh, because Diana Ross had just like out of nowhere said, I want to do something. I want to sing "We Are Family" with Miss Piggy. You know, and
No pressure.
I was at Sesame Street busy performing Bert because Frank wasn't available. And then they wound up calling Frank to perform Miss Piggy with Diana Ross. And I think it's the last thing he did with Piggy. And he wound up having to lip sync to my voice.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
So I think that's where that's probably the only thing he's really ever, watched of mine or listen, the only performance he's been exposed to probably. And that's why he said, listen, you gotta articulate better.
yeah.
Because he had to lip sync to it. He had to listen to it and performed my voice.
That's
which
right.
is just insane.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insane. No, I know he's seen other stuff that we've done. He's had what he's said what he's had to say about those things.
Yeah.
But he remains a steadfast supporter of the Muppets today, and I owe him everything.
Yeah, of course. Just to talk about Piggy again for a second. One thing I was just wondering if you ever thought much about or what you think about this, the fact that, Miss Piggy is very much like a feminine icon, and you're, you are, in the role of bringing Miss Piggy to life. I was wondering, have you ever thought much about that and what that means and how that has maybe
Sure.
affected your performance at all?
Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting. A few years back, before we did the ABC show, the Sackler Institute awarded Miss Piggy an award, like it's like a Woman of the Year kind of award. And I remember when they came to me and said, Miss Piggy's being offered this award. I said, oh, I don't know. Is this a good idea? I mean, first of all, she's a fictional character. I'm sure there are a lot of real women out there who deserve this honor more than a fictional character. And then I said, second of all, I'm a dude. Does this, does this make sense? I'm, they, and they were gung ho. Muppets was gung ho. They were like, no, we've thought about all this, and the Sackler Institute is, they know what they're doing. They're not going into this blindly. I said, and we talked about it some more, and I realized it was okay. It was okay. I felt okay about it. Because the more people I talked to about it, the more I realized that, well, for one, anybody can be a feminist. It doesn't matter what you look like or your background. It's about, believing in fairness and in celebrating the strength of women in society. And then also I discovered through some very touching stories about how much icons and iconography can mean to people. And I'd hear these touching stories from women who grew up feeling incredibly empowered by Miss Piggy, and seeing her, and through all of her faults, she believed in herself. She believed in her strength to change the world and make the world a better place. And it's incredible how many people were truly inspired by this character growing up. And I that's something I couldn't deny in these people, in their stories. And so I felt good going in after that. And since then, I felt very at ease with, my playing this character who means so much to people. And, I think it's kind of cool. I think it's, there's also something in the drag element of it, which I think is, it breaks down all sorts of gender barriers and, ways of thinking. It's like, yeah, there's, we're all in this together. We can all believe in the power of women in society, and it's a great thing.
Yeah. I think it truly, even beyond being feminist, it just is an icon too of just being yourself, which is I think why she's an icon for so many people in so many different ways too. And I think that that's really important, and that's beautiful what you just said. And really that's great.
Yeah, I never quite considered it as in a relation to drag, which is just really
well, a lot of people don't think of it that way. A lot of people are surprised when they hear that it's a man playing Miss Piggy, which is I'll take that as a compliment. Mm-hmm. I guess I could take it. I could take it either way. But it is, it is very much, it's a drag act. It's, it's where some of the comedy comes from, I think, and it's why Frank decided to play her as a truck driver in a woman's body. It's probably how he could justify himself playing this female character.
Yeah, and also too, just because I know you interviewed RuPaul on Muppets Now, and RuPaul mentioned about how much he loves Miss Piggy too.
Yeah, I truly believe he does love Miss Piggy, and we had a short but very delightful interaction on Muppets Now. But after that, he reached out to us and he said, I want Miss Piggy on my show.
Oh, great.
So
that is amazing. People who don't know, I am a humongous fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. We watch all of them, and now he's doing them in different countries and stuff. We're watching all those, so we're just humongous fans of it. So that's exciting to hear. Did you have a little? So obviously you had the interaction with him on. From what we saw on the show, did you guys talk a little bit behind the scenes too, or interact with him as Miss Piggy? Because I could imagine him perhaps wanting to do that.
Yeah, there was probably a little bit, just in between takes, but
oh sure,
yeah. If you saw that piece, there are a lot of people there that day.
Yeah. Oh
and we were on an incredibly tight schedule with that show. I mean, we were none of the bits were meant to go together, right? Mm-hmm. But we were all shooting them at once.
Yeah.
And I think we did everything you see in the 6 episodes, plus some other stuff, in 2.5 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
everything that
insane.
Miss Piggy did
Yeah.
was done in 2 days,
Wow.
Oh my god.
like both with RuPaul and the
The
and the lifestyle,
thing. Yeah.
like all of that,
Oh my god.
all of it. It would they were crazy long days, but we
Sure.
packed it in.
Breakneck
Packed
speed.
it in. Yeah.
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 So it's I still, when I watch it, I'm my jaw just hits the floor because I'm like, I can't believe we did this, and
Yeah.
it looks as good as it does, and it's like, wow, it's pretty doggone good for the amount of time that we had.
Yeah, I would say.
Oh my god.
for
For
sure.
sure.
We've taken so much of your time, and we'll start wrapping up in a minute or so. I have a question that I've I've talked to Adam about. I've been back and forth on whether or not I wanted to bring it up. But a couple years ago, I was at I visited Sesame Street. I was interviewing with Joey Mazzarino that day, and I just kind of spent the whole day, on set and kind of watching and observing and all these different things. And we were eating lunch in the green room, and I was sitting next to Pam, and Alyssa Honeycutt was there that day, and some other folks. But you were talking with David Redman about how the puppets kind of can wear out over time, and you got to kind of break them in like a glove. And he was saying how he had just shot the Furchester Hotel show, and how much like he enjoyed being able to like break in a new Cookie Monster on that, and he had already kind of like gotten from the out of the box blue color, and he kind of faded a little bit. And you mentioned that when the new Fozzies came in from Puppet Heap back for the Muppet movies that you guys did, you having your children kind of break them in for you a little bit. Can you talk about that? And not only like that specifically, but like what that meant to you in terms of like, making sure like Fozzie's not clean. He's got to be a little muggy and stuff, like how that kind of helps inform the character for you, for Fozzie or any of the other characters.
That's a wonderful topic. I don't know why, Adam, you didn't want him to ask.
Oh,
that.
no. It wasn't that he didn't. I was nervous. I was so nervous. I was like, is it going to feel like I was like stalking, or like, that it's like, this weird thing that came up at lunch that, from 5 years ago. So it was just me and him going back and forth.
And I'm all in on that too. I'm pretty rough on my puppets. I like them being broken in like that too.
Well,
they're tools.
Here's the deal with Fozzie. They couldn't source the same material that he'd been made out of for, since the beginning. It just wasn't being made anymore. So it took, I don't know, months and months, perhaps over a year, to find something that they could treat and dye and, come close to approximating his fur. And it's different. It's not, when I first saw it, I was like, this is not the same stuff. And it's and for me, the thing I reacted to probably the most was, I put them on and I went, oh, this is heavier.
Oh yeah.
And it's, it's just probably ounces, but I could tell, but it also, I felt like it looked a little plushy, like, oh, this is something you'd find on a store-bought toy, and part of it was just being new, and part of it was being this new material. So before we started shooting, I was like, I've got to treat this fur and get it, kind of knotted up and and a little more texturized before we shoot. And so I was a brand new dad, and so I had a young drooler. I just gave Fozzie to, and she just drooled all over it and got her slimy hands on Fozzie, and I just let her go to town on it. And maybe it helped a little bit to make him look better, but it certainly, with a lot of my daughter's love that I could feel when I put him on. When I had to leave her during the days.
That's amazing.
Go to work.
That's amazing. Like I said, I do the same thing too, but I do it with Cameron. He's an old drooler, and I just have him gob up my puppets, make them look a little more earthy and real. That's amazing.
The glues are tasty. What can I say?
That's amazing. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but all those new puppets, when they're first built, they just don't look anything like what you what you expect, and sometimes it's shocking.
Yeah.
Like Grover was like this big puff ball.
Yeah.
When they made some new Grovers, and he's since matted down just perfectly to my liking now. And and Oscar, we just got some new Oscar, and they've done a fantastic job of getting his mangy look, but at first he was kind of like, he looked like he came out of the dryer too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well, let's snip some fur here, and let's do whatever you need to do with some gel, or just burning the tips, or whatever you need to do to, like, the way everybody kind of got used to seeing him with it, with his thinning hair and his kind of padded down look.
Yeah, he had gotten so matted.
Yeah. So now I think he's in a really sweet spot.
Yeah, that's so important. I think we've talked a little bit about it in the past too. It's like claymation too. There's something about having those little thumbprints and imperfections on it that make it a little more real and relatable and lived in. So yeah, that's super important, especially with characters that we really portray to be in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they are real. They exist in real space and real time, and it's nice to be reminded of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we ask our final question that we asked to everybody who comes on the show, we didn't know if there was anything that we didn't ask that you were kind of hoping that would have maybe come up, or anything that you want to say to people who are listening that you maybe don't get the opportunity to say in other interviews like this.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Thank you to everybody who continues to believe in the Muppets, and our message of unity and joyful whimsy. It means the world to me. I always say that, if we're the day that people are no longer entertained by the Muppets, it's that'd be a sad day, but it would be the day that I'd say, there's no point in me doing this anymore. So I'm glad and thankful that folks are still seemingly entertained by the work we do, and it keeps me going. So thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, that's a wonderful place to end on. But as I mentioned, something that we ask all of our guests who come on the show is if they have a good puppeteer story, something that was a kind of a blooper or a war story, something didn't go right on set, that now you could kind of look back on and have a good laugh, something that Jim Krupa kind of came up with.
Well, there's this whole saving Tony Bennett's life thing, right? And yeah, sure. Let's talk about that. So for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade a couple years back, Tony Bennett and Miss Piggy were supposed to be on a float singing Santa Claus is Coming to Town together. And it did not go as planned from the start, really. It was everybody usually pre-records their singing, their performances for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, because it's impossible to hear yourself, and it's usually really cold. So those are two huge challenges to performing live. So I went ahead, I pre-recorded my side, and then and this was amazing. Tony Bennett came into the studio, and he recorded his side. I'd already recorded, but he wanted me in the studio with him, and I like mouthed the words. It was really bizarre. I was mouthing the words into the mic while he heard my pre-record and sang along with it.
And you're not even with a puppet, you mean, right? Just as you?
No,
just
not
you.
even with the puppet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's bizarre. It was bizarre. Okay. But it made him feel at ease, and like, this is how this is how he does it. And he was amazing. He was amazing. It was incredible. He was 90 years old, and yeah, he had a couple of off takes, but what he eventually found, and they put together, sounded great. It was amazing. Come the day of the parade, for whatever reason, his people thought he should sing live. Like, I guess a few years earlier, he had pre-recorded and lip synced, and they felt like it wasn't convincing enough, so they put him out there to sing live with my track. And so the performance came, and his mic was turned up really loud, and the music, including my vocal track, was way down low. I could barely hear the music or my voice, and it was really cold that day. And bless his heart, Tony couldn't hear the music. It was just kind of, it was not good. It was not good. Like the whole thing, it's not good. And so I was so upset. I was like, oh, this could have been so great. And then I was right at the end. I started to move in with Miss Piggy to like give him a hug, and the float lurched forward, and Tony almost lost his balance. I don't know if it's really that I was there and he was able to grab onto me and regain his balance. I know that it was just serendipitous, if that's what happened, because I had actually started to move in toward him before it lurched forward, and so I wasn't going in there to save his life, but that's how people saw it, and I'm glad I was there. I'm glad that Miss Piggy was got all that attention that she so craves.
She was very proud of herself.
Yeah, I'm glad he was okay, and I'm also glad that nobody talked about how bad the performance was after that happened. Like that was totally forgotten. Whatever happened before, who knows?
Yeah.
In that one moment, none of it mattered. So that's my story. That's my perspective.
Oh my gosh.
But I since went and saw Tony live, and he was fantastic. He was amazing, and he was like 2 years older too.
Yeah.
I just saw him on Colbert the other night, and like with all the energy in the world, it's like, gosh, I hope when I'm 94, that I still have that much spring in my step.
I just hope that I get to be 94.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, there's so many obstacles that there, I mean, even not only like, the cold and the tracks, but just being on a float. You're on this moving object.
Yeah,
there's the wind, this, that, the other. It's like, oh my, people shouting at you from every direction. Oh my God. Turns on the.
It's impossible. It's impossible set of challenges.
Wow.
And, so yeah, he's still got it. He's still got it. And I'm glad I was there to help him if he needed help.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
But so what's the best way for people to follow your work? Do you have any social media things people can follow or take a look at, or websites?
Nope.
Proudly.
Nope. This is this is it. I surf the internet like everybody else, but social media is something that I haven't really plugged into.
Yeah. You're not missing
you can
too
follow
much.
Sesame Street and the Muppets on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, they're the ones who really deserve the attention.
Yeah.
More so than me. So
that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, this has been wonderful,
much.
Eric. Thank you so much, and thanks for your support of the Puppeteers of America as we try to bring some support to the Direct Relief Fund.
Absolutely. I know there are a lot of folks out there who are hurting right now, and my heart goes out to them all, and thank you guys for what you've been doing.
Absolutely happy to help.
Thank you so much.
It's been nice talking to you.
We're at the end of another episode of Puppeteers, but the fun doesn't stop here.
Visit puppeteers.com for show notes and links to projects mentioned in this episode.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at PuppeteersPod, where we're posting new things every day.
Puppeteers is edited by Matt Bowen and made possible thanks to viewers like you.
If you enjoy this content, you can join our incredible Patreon patrons who are supporting the show for as little as $1 per episode. Those folks get access to early releases, uncut episodes, official Cup O tiers just like we use on the show, and can even submit interview questions for our guests. Go to patreon.com/puppeteerspod to learn more.
Another great way to support Puppeteers is rating and reviewing us on iTunes, leaving a comment or subscribing to this channel, or tell a friend about your favorite episode.
Thanks again for joining us on Puppeteers Puppetry Shop Talk, in-depth interviews with the world's most passionate puppeteers.
Hosted by me, Adam Krutinger,
And me, Cameron Garrity.
Well, this was a real pleasure. Feel free to edit it down. I know I have a very, my own voice can put you to sleep. It's very monotonous.
Yeah,
No,
again, it's funny that how the contrast between yourself and these characters, and to an extent you could say that about anybody, right? Because no one's their characters exactly, but between like
I should hope not.
yourself and how you carry yourself versus the performance of Piggy and Fozzie Bear and stuff. It is it's funny because I could imagine you being at a party to say, oh, what do you I'm a Puppeteer, I play Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear, and people are like, what? Really? That's so wow. That's so interesting. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
that's where the acting comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Definitely.
That's right.
Definitely. No, but you're in all of our comments on just about every video that we share of this show. Someone inevitably always says, "When are you going to get Eric Jacobson on?" And
yeah,
that one person is going to be very excited for this episode. So
yeah,
it's you and David Rudman. They're
never have him on again.
That's right. They're always commenting you and David Rudman. They want Eric Jacobson and David Rudman. Eric Jacobson, David Rudman. We're like, we're working on it, guys.